Is it recording? Yeah. Okay, good morning, everyone. We are in Toronto, Canada, on Tes Summit Bays. Amar le Rav Yirmiyah le Rabbi Zera. Al boen yadoa yemanis val boen ragloa yemanis. So it says by the shemen, by the oil, that of Metzorah, that you have to put it on the thumb and on the big toe. On the right thumb and on the right big toe. And you have to put it on the ear as well. Dichsiv lamali. So why does it have to say it? Now what does that mean? The Torah tells us that the shemen needs to be placed on top of the dam, on top of the blood. And the Torah already told us that the dam needs to be placed on the right big thumb, the right thumb, and the right big toe. So by definition, if shemen is going on top of dam, and we already know where the dam is going, then we know where the shemen is going. So what do you need to go out of your way and tell me, well, the shemen goes on the big thumb and on the big right toe? I already know that it goes on the big thumb and the big right toe because I know it goes on top of the dam, and you already told me that the dam goes on top of the big thumb and on top of the big right toe. Says the Gemara, Chad lahachshir tzadim v'chad liftzol tzidei tzadim. No, the reason that it tells me that is because if I would have just had one psukim, or one set of psukim, I would have thought that it has to dafka be on top of the big thumb and on top of the big toe. What does it teach me by saying it again? That it could also be on the side. So when you apply the oil and seemingly the dam, it sounds like, you can either apply it on the top or on the side. Where can you not apply it? On the bottom, underneath. So top or side is fine. Underneath would be a problem, both for the blood and the oil seemingly. Next, now also further, when we're talking about putting the shemen, so we said the shemen goes on top of the dam. We're on Yud Amud Aleph on the second line. Al dam hasham. So these are there are two psukim which tell us that the shemen needs to go where the dam is. So the question is, why do you need two psukim? One of them says al dam hasham, it goes on the dam of the asham. And then the other part says al makom dam hasham. The other place says on the place where the dam of asham is. Lamaya, so what do you need both? Hani tzrichi. Al dam hasham. If it would have said you put the oil on top of the blood of the asham, what would you think? Havamina isein niskaneach lo. What would you think? That if, again, you're applying the blood over here, right? So now you're ready to put on the shemen. Well, you might think, if it says you put it on top of the dam, what would you think? That if the dam is there, you put it on top. What happens if the dam got wiped off after putting the dam on your finger? You can't put the shemen anymore. Says the Gemara, no. That it also includes al mikom, kasar rachmana al mikom. So it says on the place, that even if the blood gets wiped away, then you put it on the place. And why does it have to say the other way? Well, because what happens if it said on the place? You would think that specifically on the place and not on top of the dam. Comes along the pasuk and says, no. L'chadchila, in a perfect world, you put the shemen on top of the dam. If the dam happens to be wiped away, you could still put the shemen in the place where the dam was. That's why you need both psukim. Because Rahman al makom havamina dafka niskaneach. Specifically, if you wipe away the blood of al isei ema have chatzitza, you might think that if the blood is still there, it's going to be a chatzitza, and you can't put the shemen on top of the blood. Kamash malan al dam hasham. No, you literally put it on top of the blood. Amar Rava. Now Rava says further, Me'acher dichsiv al dam ha'asham v'al makom dam ha'asham uchtiva yemanit bedam al boen yadoa yemanit v'al boen gla yemanit dichsivi b'shemen de mitzora asher v'ani lamali. So now that's another question. So now again, you just told me that it already says everything by dam. So it already said everything by dam. What do you have to tell me that you place it by the shemen too? We said to tell you that you go on the top or on the side and not on the bottom. But now the question is, why does it have to say yemanit again? It tells me by the dam that you place it on the right thumb, on the right toe. So what do you have to tell me by the shemen that you place it on the right thumb and on the right toe? You already know that if you're putting it where the shemen was, if you're putting it where the dam was, then you're obviously placing it on the right. So what do you have to reiterate the right when you're talking about the placing of the shemen? So Ella Amarava, yad yad lekamitza. It reiterates it so that we can learn not only for here, but for other places. Where do? We make zera shavas from here, from Mitzorah, that has to be the right, to other places. Yad yad lekamitza, regel regel lechalitza, ozen ozen l'ritzia. So the word yad over here, yadoa yemani, teaches me that the yad by kamitza, when you do the kamitza, needs to be with the right hand. Rashi points out it's not exactly glot, because by kamitza it never says the word yad. It says the word, what does it say by kamitza? By kamitza it says kaf, the palm. So we say kaf is close enough to yad. So therefore, kaf to yad, you learn, just like over there by mitzvah needs to be yadoha yemanit, so too by kamitza it has to be the right hand, like we've said the whole time. What is regel, the extra regel hayemanit by mitzvah, what does that teach? That teaches to the word regel by chalitza. right? If the husband passes away and now they have no children, so she needs to marry the brother Yibum. So if they don't want to do Yibum, then he could do Chalitza. He has to spit in her shoe. Which shoe? So we learn regel from Mitzorah that it's the right shoe. And ozen l'ritzi, it says the word ozen again. Al tenuch ozen. So it has to be the ozen, just like the right ozen here by Mitzorah. Where else do we have ozen? We have ozen by the Eved Ivri. By the Eved who works for Sheishanim. You want to keep him for longer, you have to pierce his ear. Where do you do that? On the right ear. So those are what we learned from the extra thing that it says right by regel, yad, and ozen over here by the Mitzorah. Smalit l'mayasa. So now why does it say smalit? Now again, don't get confused. The right, we're talking about the Mitzorah's right. It means we're applying the oil and the dam on the right thumb and the right toe and the right ear of the Mitzorah. But who's applying it? The Kohen. How's he applying it? With his smalit, left hand. If you remember from yesterday, we had the 4 lefts. Left, 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 left. We didn't know our right from our left. So we had our left yesterday. We said smalit, that the Kohen's using his left hand, and he's applying it onto the right side of the Mitzorah. So what are we learning from smalit? Smalit l'mayasa. Again, why is it says smalit by wealthy Mitzorah and by Mitzorah ani? Amar Shisha BAYT Rabbi lifso yamin de Kohen b'Mitzorah. So why does it specifically say left? To tell me that the right side is pasul. That the Kohen doesn't just have a choice to use his left side, because what do they usually use? We usually use our right side. The Kohen doesn't just have a choice to use his left side, he needs to use his left side. Why? Because what would you have thought? We would have thought, Shalo Tomar, Uma b'makom shelo nisra b'smol nisra b'yamin, b'makom shenisra b'smol eno din shenisra b'yamin. Why does it have to tell me specifically left over here by the Mitzorah? Because we know that in general, there are many times throughout halacha that we have to do something with our right to exclude our left. Therefore, you would think kal vachomer, that when I tell you that something needs to be done with its left, what would you say? Left, and no, you would think left, and obviously it can also be done with the right. Because in general, right is the right way to do it. Right? The right is the default. So you always use your right. So if I tell you now left, if I mention left, so then you say I could do left also. But for sure I could do right, I could do left also. Therefore, it has to reiterate and repeat left to tell me that it's not just that right and left, it's specifically left here. The right is the default. If you just said left, you would think left in addition to right. Therefore, it repeats left to say that specifically here by the Mitzorah, it needs to be left, and it's not an option of right or left. Says the Gemara, v'idach smalit l'mayasa. So now what is the small? Because again, it says small, we said 4 times. Twice by the wealthy Mitzorah, and twice by the poor Mitzorah. So we said that by the wealthy Mitzorah, obviously you need to have it once, simplifying things. You have to have it once to tell me it needs to be left. You have to have once to tell me it needs to be left. And then the second time is, again, reiterating that it needs to be left. Not just that it can be left, it needs to be left. So now why do you have to repeat it by the Mitzorah ani? But you can't ask that question. Because the reason that it says it twice, you can't ask because it says it twice. There's a chiddush in the ani. And again, this is the important point. What's the chiddush by a Mitzorah who's an ani versus a Mitzorah who's an asher? What's the chiddush? Why does it have to rewrite the whole parsha? And saying once it's rewriting the whole parsha, the fact that it says small twice, you can't learn anything. What's the chiddush by a Mitzorah who's an ani from a Mitzorah who's a asher? What's the difference between the two of them? A Mitzorah who's wealthy versus a Mitzorah who's poor. What's the difference? What is a Mitzorah who's poor allowed to bring and a Mitzorah who's an asher not allowed to bring? The asher needs to bring an animal. What's the Mitzorah who's poor allowed to bring? Birds. He could bring birds. So since it needs to repeat the entire parsha again, therefore it mentions small again, you're not going to learn anything from the repetition of small. So again, Mitzorah who's an asher who's wealthy brings animals. Mitzorah who's an ani brings birds. Why does it repeat small in general? By an ani it just repeats it because it's doing the parsha again. Why does it repeat it by an asher? To tell me that not only is it suggestive that you need to do left or that you can do left, you actually need to use your left hand. The Kohen needs to use his left hand when he's applying it to the right thumb and the right toe and the right ear of the Mitzorah.
Is it not that he's saying, when it says left, is it not that the oil is received in the left hand?
Of the second Kohen.
Oh, it's the second Kohen.
Right, we're talking about pouring it from the first Kohen into the left of the second Kohen, and then he applies it onto the Mitzorah.
But he's using his right hand to apply it, and the oil's getting...
Is he using the right hand to apply it?
Yeah, the oil's collected in his left hand, so he can use his right hand to...
But we're talking about the hand of the second Kohen.
The poor Mitzorah can't bring a mincha?
I think he brings birds maybe with the mincha, but I think I think he has to bring birds in addition. He has to have the blood, right? We said he needs to have a blood and a mincha. So where does he get the blood from? The blood either comes from an animal, if you're rich, or it comes from a bird, and then you also have the oil that's applied. Says the Gemara, Amar Rabbi Bar Chana Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish. New thing. Kol makom shenemra. For those that were chazering, you'll know that we had this in Zvachim. For those that weren't chazering, we had it in Zvachim anyway. So Rabbi Bar Chana says in the name of Reish Lakish, Kol makom shenemra etzba ukehuna ein el yamin. Does this ring a bell? When it says etzba, the word etzba, finger, or kahuna, well, we'll see if it means or and. Kahuna, the word kohen, it means the right. So the Gemara says, Chasak adaitech etzba ukehuna ba'ina, and the Gemara is clearly learning now both. It means anytime the pasuk says that the kohen is doing something with his etzba, so it has the word kohen in the pasuk and etzba, it means the right. Kedechsev, like it says by the chatas, v'lakach ha-kohen, midam ha-chatat be'etzba'o. Since it says the word kohen and etzba there, it means the right. V'gamar mi mitzorah. Where do we see this from? We learn this from mitzorah. Dechsev v'tav ala-kohen et etzba'o ha-yimanis. Because it clearly says kohen, and it says etzba, and it clarifies in the pasuk that it's talking about yimanis. So therefore we learn to all places that when it says kohen and etzba, it means yamin. Harei kamitza de lo ksiva ba'ela kahuna. But we know that by kamitza, it only says kohen. And yet, what do we know by kamitza? It needs to be done with your right hand. Why should it have to be done with your right hand if it only says the word kohen? It doesn't say etzba. Well, it doesn't say etzba because there's no real one etzba by the kamitza. There's 3 etzbos. Says about Tanan, kamatz b'smol pasol. Amarava, you're right. So it's not a din in etzba and kahuna, it's etzba o kahuna. And since it says o etzba o kahuna, since it says kahuna by the kamitza, therefore it needs to be done with the right. So now we've clarified that if it says the word etzba, or it says the word kahuna, in the pasuk, it needs to be done with the right hand.
But you need both, not or.
No, that's what we're saying. So we're clarifying now. Oh, etzba, oh, kahuna, either or. Originally, we thought it meant both. Now we're saying any two, or else the kamitza doesn't make sense. So we're saying since kamitza doesn't say etzba, it only says kahuna. But once it says kahuna, once it has one of them, then it means you have to use the right. Amar le Abaye. Abaye says there's only another problem. Harei holeches evarim lakeves. By the ola, when you're bringing the evarim, the limbs, to the keves, to the ramp of the mizbeach to burn, dichsiv behu kahuna. It says the word kahuna. Dichsiv v'kriva kohen es hakol ha-mizbecha. He makriv all of it, i.e. the ola. So what should it be? It says the word kohen. So what should it have to be? With its right hand. V'amar mar zohaleches evarim lakeves utnan haregel shel yamin bismol. That the kohen actually holds the right leg, the right hind leg of the animal with his left hand. Ubeis ora lechutz. Okay, he has to turn the hide so that it's facing outside, but he holds it in his left hand. But understand, it says the word kohen there. You just told me if it says kohen or etzba, or we should say if it says etzba or kohen. Once it says the word kohen, it means by definition with his right hand. So how could halacha lakeves be done with the left hand? Says in Gemara, we have another thing. Ki amrina no etzba kahuna. You're right, it's etzba kahuna, but the rule about a right is only bedavar hama'akev kapara. It's only by something that is essential to getting a kapara, to getting an atonement, like the sprinkling of the mitzorah, like the korban chatas and the zrika of the dam, the throwing of the dam. But over here, by the holacha lakeves, the bringing of the limbs to the keves, to the ram, to the mizbeach, that's not ma'akev kapara. If you don't do that, you still get a kapara because you don't need to do that. Why don't you need to do that? So Rashi points out 2 different things. First of all, you can actually shech the animal right by the mizbeach, so you don't have to actually do any holacha. And another way to do it is that you can just pass it from kohen to kohen. You could have like a chain. And you just stand here and I pass it to the next kohen, I pass it to the next kohen, and nobody actually has to actually do the holacha. So when we say that if it says kahuna or etzba, it means the right, that's specifically if it says etzba or kahuna in the context of something that is required, that is essential to get kapara. If it's something like holacha, which is not required, which you can get around, which you can get kapara without doing, then the fact that it says etzba, or in our case, kahuna, is not enough to require that it be done with the right hand. V'harei kabbalah, where it never rests. V'harei kabbalah, we know that the kabbalah of the dam, after you shech the animal, and you collect it into the klisharis, the animal as it's dripping the blood, we know that it's done what? We know that it has to be done by a kohen, standing up, and it needs to be done with its right hand. V'harei kabbalah, Devar hama'akev kaparahu, v'chasav ba'kahuna, and it says kahuna. So it says that the kohen does the kabbalah, and we know that it's something that's ma'akev. If you don't do the kabbalah, you can't do the zrika. Dechsev v'kruv b'nei aaron ha'kohanim es adam zu kabbalah sadam utnan kibel b'smol pasel, which is what we know. However, Rabbi Shimon machshir. Rabbi Shimon says that if the kabbalah is done with your left hand, then it's going to be kosher. How could that be? It's done with your left hand. It's davar hama'akev kapara. You need it. It's essential. It says the word Kohen. You just told me that everybody agrees that if it says the word Kohen and it's ma'akev, it's essential, then it needs to be done with your right hand. Rabbi Shimon, how can he be machshir? Says Gemara, Rabbi Shimon kamar, Rabbi Shimon tarti by. No, you'll say Rabbi Shimon holds like the other opinion. Rabbi Shimon doesn't hold either or. Rabbi Shimon holds that you need both. It needs to say, in order to require the right hand, it needs to say kahuna and etzba. Over here, it doesn't say etzba. Therefore, it doesn't require that we use the right hand. Says the Gemara, Umibai Rabbi Shimon Tarti, does Rabbi Shimon really need that it says the word kahuna and the word etzba in order to require that you use the right hand? V'atani, Rabbi Shimon Omer, Kol makom shenemar yad ein el yamin. Anytime it says the word yad, it means right hand. Etzba ein el yamin. Anytime it says the word etzba, the finger, it means the yamin. How could that be? You just told me that Rabbi Shimon holds that when it says etzba, unless it says kohen also, it doesn't mean the right. Says the Gemara, no. Etzba lo baya kahuna. Etzba by itself doesn't need the word kahuna. Kahuna by itself needs the word etzba. So kahuna by etzba. Kahuna without etzba doesn't mean right. Therefore, kahuna by Kabbalah without etzba doesn't mean right. If it would have said etzba by Kabbalah, then Rabbi Shimon would agree it needs to be right. But since it says kahuna and kahuna alone, even though it's the davar mechaper, even though it's something that's essential, according to Rabbi Shimon, not according to the other opinion. The other opinion we said is etzba or kahuna. So now everybody holds, it sounds like etzba by itself is enough. If it says the word etzba by itself, it means right. But now we're saying if it says the word kahuna by itself, Rabbanan say word kahuna by itself, if it's a davar ma'akev, needs to be the right. And Rabbi Shimon would say that the word kahuna by itself would not be right, would not require the right. Therefore, he says that if you do the Kabbalah with the left hand, it'll be okay. Then the obvious question is, Ela Kohen Lamali. So if the word Kohen by itself does not require right, and we know that the Kohen's been doing the entire, avoda, and we know that the Kohen is obviously doing the Kabbalah, so what do you have to tell me that the Kohen does the Kabbalah? We know, and it should just continue. Instead of saying V'ikrivu b'nei Aaron ha'kohanim es Adam, which is like, oh, Judge just said V'ikrivu es Adam, and we would know that it's the Kohanim. What do you have to go out of your way to say Kohanim? If Kohanim tells me that it needs to be done with the right, I understand why you have to reiterate. You have to reiterate which parts of the avodah need to be done with the right. So it says, according to Rabbanan, V'ikrivu b'nei Aaron ha'kohanim es Adam, which is the Kabbalah. It says Kohanim because when it says Kohanim, it means right. But according to Rabbi Shimon, where it can be done with the left, and Kohanim doesn't mean right, and we know that Kohanim are already doing the avodah, what does it say the word Kohanim for by the Kabbalah? Says the Gemara, B'kihuno. What does that mean? It means that they have to be wearing their garments. That means that when they do the Kabbalah, even though it could be done with their left hand, they need to be wearing the Kohen garments, and if they're not, then they passel the Kabbalah. So now we're going to continue. We just said that again. If it says kahuna by itself, according to Rabbi Shimon, it's not going to be enough to require the right side. According to the Rabbanan, if it says kahuna by itself and it's ma'akev, it will require the right. By zrika, it only writes kahuna. Vitnan, and therefore zarak bismol pasel. That makes sense according to Rabbanan. If it only says kahuna, I'm sorry, utnan zarak bismol pasel. It's zarak bismol is pasel because when it says kahuna by itself, that means it has to be with the right. But what does Rabbi Shimon say when it says kahuna by itself? It's okay. No, he should say it's okay. We just said according to Rabbi Shimon, when it's something that says kahuna by itself, it doesn't require the right. But we said that the zrika of the dam needs to be done with the right and not with the left. Why? Why, Rabbi Shimon? He doesn't argue. He doesn't get up in the base medrash and make a macha. So why does he say that zrika bismol is pasel? By the zrika, it just says kahuna. According to him, when it just says kahuna, if it would say etzba, then he would agree. Zrika bismol is pasel. Etzba means it has to be right. But according to Rabbi Shimon, when it only says Kohen, it doesn't require right. It can be done with the left. Now again, when we say it can be done with the left, as opposed to by Mitzorah, where it says Smalit, it needs to be done with the left. All of these cases are small, according to him, would be kosher, but for sure the right would be kosher as well, and maybe even preferable. But over here, when it says just kahuna by the zrika, according to Rabbi Shimon, just kahuna by itself does not require yamin. So why, when it says that zrika b'smol is possible, does Rabbi Shimon not get up and make a whole macha in the base medrash? Macha means like make a big deal in the base medrash. Says Gemara v'lo palig Rabbi Shimon. Amar Abaye. No, he does argue. Palig bebraisa. You don't have the brisa. The Tani kiba b'smol pasel. Rabbi Shimon machshir. Zorei b'smol pasel. Rabbi Shimon is machshir. You're right. He's consistent. And he says you could do the zrika with the small, since it only says that the Kohen, it only says Kohen by zrika and not etzba. Therefore, you can actually do it with the small. Says the Gemara, Ve'alahada amar Rava yad yad lekamitza lamali mikahuna nafka. Now we're back to the Rabbanan. What did the Rabbanan say? The Rabbanan said anytime it says the word Kohen, it means right. So by kamitza, it says that the Kohen does the kamitza. So what does that mean by definition? That what does he have to do it with which hand? The right. But we had the limud just on the last daf that Rava said, how do you know kamitza needs to be done with your right hand? Because we learn yad yad from mitzora. So Rava, I don't understand. Within Rabbi Shimon, I understand. Because within Rabbi Shimon, where it just says Kohen by kamitza, I wouldn't know that you need to use your right hand. I would think that you can use your left hand. And we'll actually see he might say you can use your left hand. But at this point, Rabbi Shimon would say maybe you could use your left hand by kamitza. But according to the Rabbanan, who clearly hold that when it says Kohen, it means right, so what do they need this other limud? It says Kohen by kamitza, that means right. So what do you need Rava to come along and say, oh, how do you know that you have to use your right hand by kamitza? Because it says yad yad by mitzora and by kamitza, and therefore it must be your right hand. What do you mean? We're talking about Rava, I don't need you. So what are they going to do with Rava's limud? It's not really a question on Rava. What are they going to do with the limud of yad yad? What are they going to do with the comparison to mitzora? What is it teaching me extra? Says Gemara, chad lekometz v'chad lekiddush kometz. I need another thing by the kamitza, because one right is not enough. Why is one right not enough? Because at the end of the day, if you go ahead and you do the kamitza with your right hand, we said that there's two parts of the process. There's the kamitza, and then what do you do with it after you take out the kamitza? Where do you put it? You said you put it into the kli shares. So if it only said the right hand once, if I just learned from Kahuna that has to be done with the right hand, what would I think? I take it out with my right hand, and what can I do with it now? I don't know why I'd want to do this, but I could put it into my left hand, and then put it into the kli shares. Comes along the two limudim. First I have the limud of what? I have the limud of kahuna, which means it has to be right hand. I have the limud of yad yad from mitzora. Those two limudim, which both teach me it has to be using my right hand, teach me these two steps both need to be done with my right hand. The taking out of the kamitza and the placing it into the second kli shares, they both have to be done with my right hand. Says the Gemara, beautiful. However, l'Rabbi Shimon de lo bai kiddush kometz. But now we know that Rabbi Shimon doesn't need kiddush kometz. For whatever reason, Rabbi Shimon holds that once you take out the kometz, you don't have to put it into another kli shares. Just bring it straight to the mizbeach and burn it. Or ulamad amar nami debai kiddush kometz, so Rabbi Shimon uvesmolech shure machshir. Or you could say that Rabbi Shimon holds that you need to do kiddush kometz, but you could do it with your left hand. If you do it with your left hand, what do I need? Yad yad of Rava. Yad yad de Rava lamali. Ila kamitza gufa. So that, what do you mean? What do you mean yad yad of Rava again? According to Rabbi Shimon, Kahuna does not teach me by itself that I need to use the right hand. We asked a question on the Rabbanan. What do you need me to teach that what? Kahuna by itself means right hand. Yad yad from mitzora means right hand. What do you have to teach me twice? That means you have to use your right hand for the kamitza, and you have to use your right hand to put it into the kli shares. But over here, when you have the second, now within Rabbi Shimon, what do I need yad yad of Rava for? Within Rabbi Shimon, what do I have to use my right hand? According to him, I don't have to use my right hand at all. I could use the left hand. So what does he say over here? Ila kamitza gufa. No, maybe the yad yad, the comparison to mitzora, teaches me that I have to use my right hand for the kamitza. But the Gemara says that can't be. Al liba de Rabbi Shimon mi de Rabbi Huda brei de Rav Chia nafka. I already know that from Rabbi Shimon. I already know that from Yehuda brei de Rav Chia. The Amar of Yehuda brei de Rav Chia, my time de Rabbi Shimon. What's the reason that according to Rabbi Shimon you have to use your right hand? Says the Gemara, it's not from Kahuna, because again, according to him, Kahuna doesn't teach me by itself you have to use your right hand. Maybe it should be from the comparison to Mitzora. Says the Gemara, no, I already know it, because it says the Amar Kra Kodesh Kadashim Hi Kachatas v'Kasham. It compares the Korban Mincha to a Chatas and an Asham. What does that mean? We had this before. Bala ovda biyad, ovda biyamin kechatas. Bala ovda bikli, ovda bismol ke'ashim. Let's start with the second part. The second part is a big chiddush, which means that if you come to do the korban mincha with a kli, if you don't remove it with your hands, you actually take it with a kli, which he says is okay. Take it with a kli, you could do it with the small. But if you do it with your hands, then we learn from chatas that it needs to be done with your right hand. So Rabbi Shimon already knows that it needs to be done with your right hand from a chatas. From this comparison to chatas, kodesh kadashim hi kachatas, shows us that the kamitza needs to be done with your right hand. So if that's true that the kamitza needs to be done with your right hand, now what does he do with the comparison to mitzora that says you need to use your right hand? So what did we say according to the Rabbanan? According to Rabbanan, we said, well, it's teaching me that when you take out the kamitza, you need to put it into the kli shares with your right hand. But we just said that according to Rabbi Shimon, either you don't even need to put the kamitza into the kli shares, or you could put the kamitza into the kli shares with your left hand, so he's left with an extra limud of the right hand. So what does he need this extra limud of the right hand for? What is he going to use it for? So the Gemara concludes by saying, Lo nitzrucha ela lekometz de minchas chote. he needs it. He uses Rava's limud for the komets of Minchas Chote. Why? Because you might remember a few dapim ago, what did we say? There was a whole thought process of Rabbi Shimon that would say what? That we don't want the mincha of a person who sinned to be beautiful. So you might think that when he brings his korban mincha, no, it's okay if he uses his left hand, because we don't really want him. He has to bring it. But we don't want it to be so beautiful anyway. Since we don't want it to be so beautiful anyway, and he could leave out certain of the ingredients as we mentioned. So therefore what? Therefore if he uses his left hand, it's going to be okay. We need this extra limud of Rava on top of the original limud. The original limud says that in general, when you bring a korban mincha, you have to use your right hand. The extra limud of Rava says that even by the korban mincha of a chote, even by the korban mincha of a sinner, where we don't really care so much about how beautiful it is, the extra limud in comparison to mitzorah teaches us that even by the korban mincha of a chote, you have to use your right hand as well. Kikamet salnami bismol tiskasher, kamash malan, that even by the minchas chote, you'd have to use your right hand as well. Okay, shkoyach everyone, have a wonderful day.